All right,
All
let's
right,
do
we
it.
are live.
We
Well,
are.
welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Matt Foyle, head coach at Empire Cryptocurrency Trading, and we are back with episode 2 of the Empire Pod. Guys, we had such great reviews for episode 1 with Mathew Ceddia. We said we'd do it on a monthly basis, but you guys loved it so much, so we thought, why not bring it forward? Why not get our next guest on ASAP? So here we are with episode 2 of the Empire Podcast. If you
You're
liked
pulling the
episode
big guns on this episode, mate.
pulling the big one. So that's right. And let's say if you liked our first guest, I think you'll love this one because he's got half the amount of hair, but double the amount of energy to him. And this guy, he probably doesn't need an introduction, to be honest. Like, oh, you probably know who he is. But for those who don't, this guy is the co-founder of Empire Cryptocurrency Trading. This guy has spoken in front of thousands of people live multiple times. This guy has turned $100 trading account into $100,000 all through his own trades, which is mind blowing, right? No, not any average Joe on the street can do that. This guy, you probably know him as Seds, or the king of shitcoins, Mathew Ceddia. Say hello.
Thank you, guys. Matty, thanks for having me on this podcast. I'm a little bit excited and nervous at the same time. I don't do too many live Q&As like this, so breaking into it's going to be a bit of fun. But nah, man, just a very quick introduction about myself. I've been trading for close to 9 years now. I started off dabbling with some shares on the ASX market. From that, I made a little bit of money, got introduced to cryptocurrency from one of my friends, and basically from there, I started trading crypto. Wanted to know all about it. In my first year, I was really, really lucky. I was able to make quite a large profit, but at the time, I actually had no idea what I was doing at all. I ended up telling my boss to go get stuff. Don't need you no more. I thought I'd made the big bucks, right? And then what basically happened from there was a couple of weeks later, I was actually eating a kebab. And while I was eating that kebab, I was loading my, back then we used an app with Blockfolio. I was, refreshing my Blockfolio. And I saw my balance drop down by like 100,000 at a time. And I was, started to get a bit of a panic. Long story short, I lost pretty much everything that I had made. Left myself down to a really small account. I ended up having like $20,000 left to my name. I sat there and I was like, shit. I've quit my job. I'm all in now, right? I've got to try and find a way to make this work. And it was a blessing in disguise what had happened to me. And I just wanted to, I won't go too much into this now because we're going to go more into it later. But it was more having that experience of making so much money fast essentially gave me that mindset where I'm like, I want to know everything. If I can do this once, I can do it again. And that's what got me into crypto trading. That's what got me learning. I ended up becoming a head coach for two different companies. I left and then decided to now form my own company, which is now Empire. We're hoping that everybody that's in Empire is loving it because, yeah, we're dropping bombs daily in there now. So I think I'd like to say that after all my years of experience, there's one thing that you can do, and that's learn from courses and all that kind of stuff. But actually being in the industry for a long time, it gives you a lot more knowledge of how things work rather than what you're reading. You need to experience it, the practical side. So yeah, I do see myself as a bit of a seasoned trader. And I've been full-time trading now for about 4 years. So yeah, I'm loving it, mate.
Yeah, thank you for just telling everyone a bit about yourself. And we're definitely going to dive into your kind of periods in your trading history where things maybe weren't so good and you had to pick yourself up and go on forward from there. So we'll unpack a lot of that in our chat. For everyone listening, I just want to kind of date you in the crypto timeline. And I know it's Valentine's Day when we're recording. I don't want to date you. I want to chronologically timeline you in the crypto world. So I'm just going to list like a few dates in history, and you just tell me kind of like where you come into the picture, just so everyone knows. Because Seds is one of those guys who is genuinely OG, right? There's really not that many people in the space that have been around long enough to kind of say that. They haven't seen cycles been and gone like this guy has. So he has a lot of really, really valuable insights to share, and we're going to unpack that on this call tonight. But for everyone, we're going to start way back. So 2009, Bitcoin is created after the GFC. We have 2011, 2012, 2013 is like crypto's infancy. There's no exchanges. There's nothing you can do really to transact with crypto. Crypto is basically something that people consider only used on the black market to buy drugs, and that's it, or it's a scam. 2014, Coinbase, first crypto exchange, was put out to the public, gets over 1 million users in the first year. We cross over into 2015, and we see at the end of the year, we start seeing ICOs start to emerge. So 2016 is when the Ethereum ICO was launched, and that was a big feature of the cycles that we saw. In that 2016 cycle, the ICO cycle, it was altcoins just flooding the market, so much money being made. And when people talk about alt season, it got its name from that period in history when
That was the season, man, and that's what I'm expecting to happen again this year. I'm hoping with what we're gonna be experiencing. But yeah, now go on, man.
yeah,
Head
well,
on.
so
That was when I was in the market.
yeah, so like where do you fall in that kind of timeline? Were you pre ICO?
So I was in at the beginning of ICOs. I was able to get the Chainlink ICO actually. That was one of the coins I got very, very early. I was also around, so I wasn't around when Ethereum started as such. I
Yeah,
got into crypto when Ethereum was around, I think it was $30 around there. And a
yeah,
friend of mine that introduced me to crypto, he's massive on Ethereum. So he was constantly putting half of his paycheck. I'm not telling anyone else to do that, right? But that's what he was doing. He was putting half of his paycheck in there every single week, just buying more and more and more Ethereum. And yeah, you could imagine that from $30 to where it is now, it's done him very well in the long term. So I got in, yeah, when all that happened, we used to trade on Bittrex, which, realized that every single cycle that's gone past has been a new kind of feature exchange that we're all on. So
yeah,
yeah, have been around for quite some time. I made the majority of the money that I was talking about earlier trading altcoins. One of them was Neo. It used to be called Ant Shares. And I remember I made my first Bitcoin when that rebranded from Ant Shares into Neo. It was a really
yeah,
exciting time for me. If you go back to then, that was the year when I was pretty in the game.
yeah, definitely. It's interesting you kind of bring up the cycle phenomenon of there's like a new exchange or a new thing every cycle, and you're right, like
Yeah.
2016 is that ICO phase. When we look at kind of the 2020 period, it was NFTs launching, and we have IDOs, and now we're starting to see airdrops and things like that to be a bit more popular in the current cycle that we're in. And it's kind of like there's almost like a new shiny toy or a new object that kind of gets a lot of hype every cycle. And for
Yeah, that's
those
right.
who don't know what they're doing, those who are uneducated, those who just want to make quick money fast, those little shiny objects are where they go to burn their cash, right? They go to lose all their money in these places because they don't know what the hell they're doing. And only those who are educated, only those who do their research or have mentors in their space that can help them, only those people are the ones that are actually making money off this stuff. So it's a very challenging crypto world that we exist in. It doesn't get easier every second day. It often gets more challenging, more difficult.
I'm gonna
So
stop you there. It's
yeah,
challenging. It is. Look, it's not an easy space, right?
100%.
But it's a space where you need to be aware of what's happening in the world, and you need to be aware of all the information that's going on in the background. If I go back to my kind of relating it to my journey, you see that when I first started, I just used to buy random altcoins that had good fundamentals behind them, right? That was my thing. I come from a background of stocks, so I wasn't really looking at technical analysis or anything like that.
Yeah,
And I made a lot of money. My next bull market, I've been around for this, coming up to my third bull market now. My next bull market that I was in, I just did technical analysis. And I found that that wasn't as effective using just technical analysis because if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, technical analysis, and a lot of you that are trading at the moment right now probably realize it just isn't as effective, right? That's where it's got me into a point where I need to know all the fundamentals. And I've always been very big on fundamentals, whether it be what's happening with projects and coins, ecosystems, what's happening with the US economy, because we know Bitcoin's hedged to the US dollar. And it's funny what you're saying before, because you're like, DeFi came out, NFTs came out, and all these things, right?
yeah,
What's the one platform that they're all launched on? Ethereum.
yeah,
Ethereum, right?
yeah.
And like you're just saying, so we're coming into a time now, which we'll probably talk about a bit later, but there's now a new Ethereum standard that just got launched, right? So
Mm.
it is important to make sure that you're on top of all of the narratives that are going on if you really want to be profitable in this space.
Yeah, definitely. I'm big on like the context factor when we do use TA, because you can have all the great TA in the world, but the context of what you're seeing it is super important as well. And that comes into paying attention to the narratives around the space that you're in, and yeah, listening, not being, persuaded by like all the garbage that you see in the news. It's more about like just being honest with what you're seeing out in the world, the trends that are happening in different sectors, and being able to track them and apply them to what you're seeing in different projects. And I think you're someone who does that probably better than anyone else that I know. And TA is great, but why would you just use TA if you can fundamentally appraise different projects like yourself? And the other
Yeah.
thing, like, a lot of these projects that I see you get into, Matt, and you do quite well with them, they're fairly new, right? And TA is the study of past data. And a lot of these charts, they don't have much to go off. They don't have much historical levels to trade, and makes it a bit more difficult from a TA perspective. And that's where I think that the fundamental backing that you bring to your analysis is why you do so well with these projects.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You'll see that I spend a lot of time, about 4 hours a day, researching crypto things and just news, altcoins, what's going on in the market. And that's what's helped me to become quite profitable in my trading. Rather than just, look, don't get me wrong, I still make some mistakes here and there. We all do. All right. But at the same time, being aware is what's helped. Like right now, we're trading off the narrative with the Bitcoin ETF. I've been talking about that since middle of last year, so we were able to capture that entire run. That was the time where I was able to turn that, like I said earlier, the $200 into 100 grand. Actually topped out at around 108,000, but then I used
Yeah.
my TA to examine when to get out essentially. So I used the fundamental to buy and then get that run. And then on the announcement, I used that to then get out of the market when I thought was a good level, which is what I did. And I think it went up to 108,000. I ended up taking profit at like 102 or something. So
Yeah.
yeah, took a little bit off the top, but
Mate,
you're never going to get the top.
That's,
Some
that's, a,
people do.
that's a bit of froth, mate, on the beer.
That's it, a little bit of froth on top, mate.
Yeah. So let's kind of get to know your journey a little bit more. I want to hear about the early days and what sparked your initial interest into the cryptocurrency world, and just the financial world in general. Like, take us back to the early days. What interests you about the space, and what really got you hooked?
So early on, I always heard about stocks. I was always interested. I always wanted to know, right? I was working a pretty average job as an engineer. I was being paid like $700 a week, yeah. And I
Yeah.
seen all my friends driving nice cars, all this kind of stuff, and I wanted to have that life. I wanted to do that, that kind of thing. Another thing is I was always interested, I always loved jet skis, always loved going to the beach. And there were days where all my friends were going and I was stuck in the office and it just made me mad. I wanted more from life, right? Then one day my friend came over and I bought some stocks on the stock market. I heard that medicinal marijuana was being legalized in Australia. And I bought some weed stocks and I made some money on them. And then I spoke with one of my mates. He came over, we're having a cigarette in the garage. And he goes, "Oh, this looks like a crypto chart. You should have a look at crypto." I'm like, "Man, I heard about crypto when I was playing World of Warcraft back in 2010. I was a big computer nerd, always on the computer playing games, and I heard about that before, and it was like, I don't know, 25 cents or something like that. And I had no interest in it. And I'm like, well, how's it looking now? And he had, I think it was 57 grand in his account at the time, right? We had a
Yeah.
smoke, a cigarette. After after we finished, refreshed his account, he'd made like 20 grand. And I go to him, "Mate, you're not going nowhere. I get my laptop." And when I got my laptop, we're starting this journey now. So I sold all my weed stocks, put it all into my crypto.
Yeah.
And the thing was, I did pretty well on those weed stocks. I actually got out at a good level, thank God for that.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I probably went a little bit too heavy into crypto because I had no idea. I didn't even know what the exchange was. He's showing me how you can use your ETH to buy other coins and you make more money in ETH. And to me, this just exploded my mind, right? I was like, what is all this stuff? This is crazy. But just seeing him make that money so fast is what got me into the game. I wanted
Yeah.
to be able to do something similar. And Yeah, that's pretty much where we kicked it off. And then, like I said before, I ended up making all that money that year, and then went broke, and then pretty much just stayed in the game.
Yeah, so I guess the initial interest was sparked by seeing like what is possible, and
Yeah.
then the hook, and I call it like the trading bug. So I feel like everyone who stays in this space, they get bitten by like this bug, and it doesn't leave them alone after
You're
that point.
right to an extent.
Yeah.
You know which people don't get bitten by the bug? The ones that buy at the top of the market. It's
Yeah.
true, man. They get bitten by a different kind of bug. They're like, get me out of here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thing
Yeah.
is when you are around for a full bull market cycle, right? When you get involved at the bottom, a lot of people in Empire, the ones that have been around with us from the start, you know, they've been there when Bitcoin was around $18,000. They're going to get the full experience now if they hang
Yeah.
around, right?
The cycle experience.
Yeah, the crazy experience where it's like shitcoin bingo. It almost doesn't matter what you buy, everything just goes up. I'm not telling you
Yeah.
guys to buy anything, all right?
Yeah.
But the thing was when you make that large amount of money so fast, it consumes you, like it captures you, man. I don't know how to explain it. Like you said, you get that bug, and it just transforms your life. You just want to know everything about it, all the ins, all the outs, and it took me by storm. I'm not even going to lie to you. Where to the fact that 9 years down the track, I'm still here. And I'm every day I'm still learning more and more. So I was very grateful to have made the money, grateful to have lost it because it built a desire in me, right?
Yeah.
It built that inner spark where, and the fact that I'd quit my job, it was kind of like I had no choice. But what you realize is when you go broke and when you have no money, but you really want to know something and you really want to develop something, something happens in your mind where you just go all in and you spend every minute obsessed with something. People know me now. They come say hello to me like, "Hey, Bitcoin, how are you?" I was at a wedding on the weekend, and my mate Tony, he was getting taken, getting escorted in a Rolls Royce, comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, Mr. Bitcoin, how come you haven't got one of these yet?" Like everyone. I got that into it that everyone knows me as the crypto guy now. And honestly, like it was, yeah, it's just been a fun journey. But that was my pretty much my early influences that really got me into it. And I just saw, like, as I started getting into it, started researching what it could do, it kind of went with my how can I say it, my perspective on the world, where it's like eliminate banks, eliminate the power from these big corporations, give it back to the people
Yeah.
instead of us being controlled like puppets. And that's what was really a big thing for me as well. It's kind of ticked all my boxes in one. Yeah, in
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot. The whole concept of what crypto actually is. Like I love the trading. I love what the market can bring us and the wealth that it can you can accumulate in this space. But the like when you think about what crypto actually is, it's taking back control from all these people at central banks that are just every day eroding our purchasing power every day, effing up interest rates, effing up markets, and it's just the average Joe, the regular person who suffers from their actions. And yeah, Bitcoin, crypto, it's taking that away from them, and that's why I love this space so much.
Yeah, look, don't get me wrong. Like, I know a lot of us joke around when we talk about crypto, we say we're in it for the tech. If you
Mm.
if you really look back, we are now in it for the tech. We're in it
Yeah,
for what it's going to do in the coming years. If the US dollar decides to dive, which could happen with what's happening in the world at the moment, with the war, with BRICS, and de-dollarization happening around the world, where this is a solution in a sense to some people for whatever their objective or goals are. This could be a solution to basically protecting your wealth throughout this time. So people who are involved in the markets now, they're going to be able to experience some of that, I guess. Where for the people who are ignorant and people who don't want to understand what crypto is, they turn around and say it's fake money. Well, they turn around and say Bitcoin's a scam, Bitcoin's a Ponzi. Look at the dollar. They just print more whenever they want, and then they raise up your interest rates. Inflation technically devalues how much your money is worth every single year. I talked to my dad. I said, "Dad, you should have a look at some crypto stuff." And he's like, I've got all my money in the bank." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, good on you." You know, your $1 million that you had in the bank as of last year, so let's just say 10% inflation. It's now worth 900 grand. Technically, you lost money.
literally. And like on the contrary, you just hold your money in Bitcoin. It doesn't necessarily have to have a massive, tailwind behind it, all this demand coming in. A lot
Mm,
of It's just it's got a fixed supply, and what it's valued in doesn't. It's just going up. So your Bitcoin is just by consequence of the dollar worth more because of what they're doing to this dollar, just eroding its purchasing power every single day.
Exactly right. Exactly.
And so that's kind of like your early period into crypto, and I think you've kind of covered what you probably would consider the early experience that would have shaped your journey thereafter, having made that money, then lost it, and kind of having to pick yourself up and moving forward.
It was scary.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, a lot of people in the market that have lost a lot of money in the game, a lot of them would have given up. You got two types of most. The thing is you have to believe in yourself, right? And it's easier coming from me because I've experienced the bull run. Don't get me wrong, okay? But if you haven't experienced the bull run and you can see what's happened in the previous bull runs, you go back and have a look at data, you need to believe in yourself. And it comes down to another thing of just not overexposing yourself to the market as well. You know, there was people that sold their house to buy the top of Bitcoin. They'd be haunted for life, right? Maybe by the next bull market, they might break into a profit. But if you had a little bit of money in there, you wouldn't be so worried, right?
Yeah.
When it comes down, people leave the market, and they're the ones that, unfortunately, a lot of them won't ever be profitable in the industry. Mate, my life's been a roller coaster. I've been broke so many times, and I've been at a very good level so many times. The main thing that's changed me and it's helped me to become successful is legit. I'm still here every day, putting in the work. Success is not something that just comes instantly. You know, some people that do get successful in the crypto market industry, they might make a lot of money fast, but what they'll find is like what happened to me. They made it fast. A week later, the money's gone. Some people are lucky enough to cash out some of it, but the mindset changes when you're making big money. You start to get greedy. You know, you think that things are going to keep going up. You're filled with momentum, filled with hopium. And it's a whole mindset that needs to be developed. But we'll talk about mindset in a minute. But it's more about, continuously really just being here and just continuously putting in the work every day, no matter if you're getting paid or not. I went years without being paid technically. Look at all the bear markets that we went through back when I didn't know anything about shorting. Technically, I made nothing. I was driving Uber at one stage, man. Went and bought myself a hybrid Camry, and I was driving Uber to keep me afloat while I kept learning. Like, that's how dedicated I was to the space.
Yeah, and that's some level of dedication. I think very seldom you could meet people who've gone out and done that to make what their goals are come true. It's really inspiring, and I want to ask a question about that period where you initially kind of made money, and then obviously you lost quite a bit, and you're at that point in time. And two questions I have for you is like, do you feel like you believed in yourself because you'd already done it, you'd seen what's possible, or was there something else kind of like pushing you in that moment?
Honestly, at the moment, I was young and I just wanted a better life. I saw all these people on Twitter talking about a whole bunch of things. Technically, listening to them was part of the reason why I lost my money, because they're all like, Bitcoin's gone to $1 million. But when I went down and I lost everything, I didn't have much support at all. There was a couple of friends that were there for me. They all thought that I was an idiot. My parents thought I was an idiot for quitting my job. And I guess it comes down to belief, because in society, we're so adjusted to the fact that we need to have a 9 to 5. We need to go to work. We need to finance a home and mortgage a home and then go and live in it. That's the standard of living, and that's what people are used to. But I wanted to break that cycle. I wanted to be like independent on my own, and it takes balls to do that. Not everyone will turn around and say, I'm going to break away from the norm and be the black sheep. But when you break out of that cycle and you're like, well, I don't need to go and buy a house straight away. I don't need to put myself in debt. I can rent a house and I can concentrate on my goals. And then when I'm ready, I can buy a house. See, right now, that's all I'm doing. Oh, no, I don't want, and people say, oh, but you're not working a job, you can't get a mortgage. My goal is to buy my house in cash.
You don't want to depend on the banks.
No, I don't want to depend on
those things about.
What am I going to do? Go buy a house and say, 800 grand. And then by the time the mortgage is all paid, that house I've paid, 1.6, including all the interest. No, that's not going to work for me. If I can't afford it anymore, I don't buy it. You know, you got all these people out there flexing AMGs, all of this, all of that, and they can't afford it. You know, they're all paying finance up to their eyeballs. And then when interest rates go up, watch all that stuff go cheap on car sales, right? But it's more, look, the thing was, man, is I genuinely didn't have anyone to bring me up, but I just wanted to give it a crack. I believed
Yeah.
in myself.
That's
And
kind of answered my next question of when you're in that period, you know, like what were your friends and your family thinking about? You're already saying like they're just calling you an idiot, like
yeah,
your job.
my
There's
friends, they all thought I was crazy.
yeah.
A lot of
And
my friends used to pick on me. My mate Brendan, the
yeah,
concrete pump. He used to drive a concrete pump, right?
yeah.
Oh, this Bitcoin bullshit, blah, blah, blah. He used to always say to me, I go to him one day, I'm going to buy a concrete pump and I'm going to park it in your driveway so you can't go to work in the morning, right? Just as a piss take. Guess who's in my inboxes now asking me to trade their money for them? Brendan,
Uh,
if you're listening to this, I just called you out, brother.
there you go, Brendan, mate.
And it wasn't just Brendan.
Yeah.
There was
Oh,
multiple of my friends. I got mates. I got a friend of mine since I was about 4 years old, and they all still laughed at me for doing crypto. Right? I
yeah,
got a mate named Gary. He's another one. He always, not that he gives me shit, but he's not supportive. He laughs at
yeah,
it. Laughs at the fact that I do this. But
yeah,
now it's like I put in the time. I didn't listen to what anyone said because you adapt. If you listen to somebody's, what's the word for it? If you listen to somebody's comments, you're basically buying their lifestyle. So if I want to listen to what Gary thinks about everything, then I'm going to go work in a call center and make 50 grand a year for the rest of my life. That wasn't
yeah,
me.
yeah,
Right? I wanted to listen to what the millionaires were doing, what people who are in the industry are doing, because I want their lifestyle. I wanted to be the guy that can go on a boat on a Tuesday afternoon with my friends and not have to worry about my boss calling me, not have to worry about losing my job. That's one of the major things that people need to really absorb because our external influences they play a big part on us, right? Where us as a human being, a little bit of spirituality here.
mm,
I know I'm going to cop it from Gary and Brendan after this, but anyway, our bodies are basically 80% water, right?
yeah,
And water has been proven to have like a memory to it, right? So external influences, the sound, vibration, and audio affect water and basically save data in water. There's been an experiment where they got 3 cups of rice, and one of them they told they love every day, one they told they hate every day.
I have seen this, yeah.
Probably
And they've
seen
done
that.
many like this. It's not just the rice. Like they've done it to plants, they've done it to other like tiny organisms, and yeah, it's real.
There's heaps of them. If you tell something you love it every day, it's going to bloom, it's going to blossom. You tell something you hate it every day, it's going to go moldy. Now,
Yeah,
the thing is, listening to all those external influences, and this is for our listeners here, they need to understand this. Do they have what you want? Because if they don't, block it out and don't listen to them. Follow your own path. You can do it. You can be the black sheep of your friendship group. And they're
yeah,
going to laugh at you now. And then, 5 years' time, when you make it, they're going to ask to come on your boat. Because don't let all that noise. I had to cut out friends.
yeah,
And that's normal. It's not that I hate them. It's just that the energy that you get from them is feeding you. What you tune into is what you turn into. And I was starting to turn into that. So I had to get away from that. And still sometimes I slip into that hole. I'll go and see him and they'll be talking about all this shit, always, negative, negative, negative. And it's just I don't want to hear it.
yeah.
Same as when I have a conversation with my parents. Fuck, every time I have a conversation with them, it's the same shit. Oh, you got to be careful of this. You got to be careful of that. How about just let me go all in? Let me give it a crack.
Yeah,
Let me.
yeah,
Otherwise, I'm
literally.
going to be like you, Dad. I'm going to be a welder until I'm, 56 and not have the chance to have a beach house like everyone else, right? And I'm not here to call them out. I'm not here to pick on
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Everyone's got their own goals.
But you're
But
right, and that whole law of vibration, it's a fundamental law of our universe, right? Everything vibrates, everything's moving, and it gives off a frequency, and
correct.
that frequency resonates with other frequencies. It's a natural phenomenon, happens everywhere in the universe. It happens if you are a person as well, and that resonance it balances it out, right? So if you're around someone who is vibrating at a really high frequency, they're really energetic, they're happy, they're successful, they're accomplished, and they give off that vibration, and you're someone who is just really mellowed out, depressed, you're just down in the dumps, and your energy and vibration is quite low, generally that resonance kind of meets at the middle. So you bring the person who's really up down, and the person up gets for a person who's down.
Correct.
And
Spot on.
that's why, you know, when you say you have to cut people out, it's really important that you are conscious, I think, of the frequency that people in your life are giving off, and you gotta know when someone's got a frequency that is just bringing you down to their level, and you got to have the courage, I think, if you've got real goals and real passions, to say, look, you know, maybe we can't be as close anymore because I've got this goal in mind and I don't know if you align with that. And it doesn't have to be that conversation, but you know what I mean? It's about choosing the right people in your life. And me and Maddie last week on the last podcast, we talked a little bit about controlling your external environment. And I think that all comes into play, that everything that you let in is affecting you and your performance as an individual. And that's why we've got to be so conscious of everything that we let into our life like that.
That's right. 100%. No,
Yeah.
you're spot on.
So let's keep moving along and ask our next questions here. So I want to know about the education phase. So obviously, I'm assuming once you got to that point where you realized what was possible and you go, I'm going to pick myself up, I'm going to learn everything there is to know. You had to start. And
Yep.
how did you start? Where did you go? How did you educate yourself in the early period?
So I started off like I probably think 90% of people listening to this probably would have, and I started on YouTube. I started just looking into coins at the start, right? I didn't do too much technical analysis, and I got really good at picking which coins were going to go pump next based on the announcements that were coming up. I used to use a website called CoinMarketCal, that's the one. And I'd find announcements that were coming up in, you know, not instantly, but in a couple of weeks' time or whatever. I'd buy the dips and then sell it before the news announcement came up. And that was quite an effective strategy that I'd use during the bull market. It doesn't really work that well in a bear market, right? But from that, I was then picked up by a bloke named Michael, and he asked me, let's build a trading company. You know, he had started his thing. You know, he reached out to me and he goes, let's build something together. He goes, I want you to do your side about coins and all that kind of stuff, and he wants to teach technical analysis. And I go, look, I'm interested. He flew me over to Bali and he did his first ever live event. And from that event, I learned what would be the basics of technical analysis. That was the first time I was ever introduced to it. And I was like, wow, you know, I'm on my pathway to be a full-time trader now. That was the beginning of it. We didn't end up going ahead and doing that business together. He ended up starting, we ended up doing something else. But in the long run, I ended up being picked up by that company after he had left it to do fundamentals and to do, you know, shit coins and things like that. But the basic level of technical analysis, I believe, in this day and age, it's not enough. It's like it'll make you some good trades, don't get me wrong, but it's not enough for you to turn around and say, I'm going to have a very high success rate. And I think the reason for that is back then, when I learnt that stuff, there weren't really institutions in the game. It was a lot of retail traders. Retail traders use technical analysis. Fast forward to where we are now, there's a lot of institutions in the game. They know that the retail money is using technical analysis, and they're able to somewhat manipulate the prices and shake you out. And that's some of the stuff that we teach in mentorship. And with my, you know, I do like an advanced strategy that I teach once every now and then, but that basically helps you to manage and navigate the manipulation. And that's like now what we have in Empire, how I'm sharing all the stuff on our Monday fundamentals calls, which, you know, our community has found to be extremely useful. I'm pointing out how things can be manipulated and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, it's that basically started my education at a very basic level, and then after that, you know, I just kept piling it on, learning new strategies, learning things like Wyckoff, you know, market maker strategies, and I tested so many different indicators, man. It's funny when you're coming into the market, and I see this in our chat as well. Everyone's like, I want to test out this indicator. They think there's some magic key to trading. That you're just going to get some indicator and it's going to be right. You're just going to make $1 million. It's bullshit, man.
Yeah.
I've been there and done that. I've tried so many different types of things. I remember I was doing momentum indicators. I was doing indicators where there was no candles on the screen. You're using standard deviations and quantitative analysis, a whole bunch of different things. And truthfully, it didn't really work that well. You know, the video that they promoted it with would sell the shit out of it to you. You get a couple of wins out of it, but it just wasn't wasn't all that jazz that it was meant to be,
Yeah.
because that's not the secret. We're going to talk about later, how I've made my thing work. But yeah, it wasn't from that. That
Yeah.
indicators, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think the whole like strategy hopping is such a signal to me anyway of a trader who just is really struggling. They don't know like what they're doing to a degree because they think it's just that easy. If I figure out how to use this indicator, I will be successful, and it's just not the reality of it. And the best advice I give to people who are doing that, it's like, no, stick to the things that actually work and have been proven to work, and get really good at them. You probably aren't applying the strategy the way it should be if it's not working for you, because these strategies work, right?
Hmm.
And I love that at Empire we really shy away when we talk about the TA side of things. We shy away from that whole retail mindset. I mean, I know you are really big on the saying, I'm about to drop an F-bomb here, how can the institutions fuck me today?
Yep.
And this is something that is so critical, and I think every trader in the market should think about. And for your trading strategy, it incorporates that at the essence of it all, where you're not looking at the levels that retail traders are looking at. You're looking at the levels where these guys are getting forced out of the market by these institutions. And yeah, that's one thing I really love about Empire. And I know like the strategies that I use, like harmonics, they target levels that are far deeper, far beyond what retail traders are targeting, purely because of those reasons. It's
Yeah.
liquidations, targeting imbalances. Those are the things that I think are effective in the TA space. But these old methods, you're right, they're far less effective nowadays, and we've got to adapt as traders if we want to continue to win in this market. And that's why, we're really big on advocating for these methods that we use, and also, like you say, the fundamental context and what all that research is so important.
Exactly. Well, you got to think of it like this. In every single market, there's a buyer and there's a seller. And it's either going to be somebody who's potentially making money, and there's also going to be the potential of somebody who's losing money. Your job is to technically outsmart the mass and become the smaller percent to become profitable. Because statistics show that I think it's only like 20% of all traders become profitable. So if you want to be that 20%, you can't do what the other 80% of such are doing. And that's what's kind of really important. Now you got to think of it like this. The institutions, they know that technical analysis is being taught, so they're going to use that to their advantage. You're going to see like a symmetrical triangle, right? And if you're a trader, and you probably resonate with what I'm about to say, but how many times has technical analysis told you to buy the trend line and then it gets dropped down and then back up into the wedge and goes? That's the
Yeah,
manipulation.
yeah,
You're then getting stopped out. The institutions are buying your shorts because when you go to close it, it has to buy the position. And then from there, bang, they're making the profit. So it's all
yeah,
those little things that need to be considered in your trading. And that's you don't want to just buy. But don't get me wrong, technical analysis is going to work. It has to work a percentage of the time. The institutions have to let it work. The
yeah.
reason for that is if they don't, then they can't go and sell it. They can't go say it's going to work.
I
But
got no one
even
to sell to anymore.
that's right. But even with the strategies that we teach, there is many components used in technical analysis that we still use, which form up our decisions. One of the
Yeah,
things, Foily, I actually learned this from you. One thing that I'm very big on is I might be a head coach, I might be a good trader, but I'm always still a student. I'm not going to sit there and have an ego and be like, no, I don't want to, I can't learn anymore. I know everything. No, you never want to be like that. You always want to be someone who's always open to learning new things, keeping your mindset open. And one of the things that I learned from you, Foily, recently was when I did our Fibonacci course, and I learned about the 1.13 fibs, about how that's used as a level of manipulation. And if we look
yeah,
at the Bitcoin price today, you'll see that that's where the price effectively got rejected, right?
yeah,
And it's those kind of things. A lot of technical analysis companies that are teaching all this stuff, they're not looking at things like that, right? So
yeah.
technical analysis is a big field, and it's all about being able to have the right information, essentially.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately in the trading space, a lot of what TA really is or should be has kind of been manipulated by many figures in the space to be like a marketing ploy. Like you can make all this money with technical analysis, and I think there are far too many people in the space who are parading around with techniques and strategies that don't work, and they act like they work. And yeah, it's unfortunate because I think it overall it distorts the body of information that is out there, and it makes it really difficult for the average person to know what is the right information out there.
Can agree. One thing as well though is it kind of is on the person as well. This is way I like to think of it, right? Because when I learned at the start, when I learned technical analysis and I found I was winning 40, 60% of the time, whatever it may have been, I could have stopped there and just said, yep, this is it. How dedicated are you of a trader that you want to know everything? You want to know all the ins and outs, all the shit that happens behind the background. Why one night you go to bed and Bitcoin's pumped when technical analysis looked like it wanted to have a short. So
Yeah.
it all comes down to, if you really want to make it as a trader, you need to be obsessed. You really do. You need to be truly obsessed that it's all you think about. And when it's all you think about, you'll find you're going to spend all of your time learning and learning. And a lot of my friends and family, they can all vouch for that. Mate, I'll sit at the computer here sometimes 16 days an hour, 16 hours a day, right? Because I want to learn, I want to know new things, and I want to get to the bottom of what's causing what. But a lot of traders, they'll sit there, they'll do the online course. And after that, they'll go watch Netflix with their missus, come back in the morning, maybe check it for another 15 minutes, and then say, oh, well, why aren't I profitable? Well, how much time and effort are you putting in? Are you thinking outside of the box? And this applies to anything that you do. If you want to be a mechanic, you want to know everything about it. You're not just going to use a standard spanner. You want to get the flexible ones. You know what I mean? Like, you want to know a little bit of everything. You don't just want to limit yourself to what you're taught.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really up to you to have the onus to continue to really, really learn what you're doing. It takes years to become, Sparky, used to become a mechanic, used to become whatever trade you want to talk about, used to become a doctor. All these things, they require multiple years of study and practical hard work to be put into the task to be considered a master. And the reality is that a lot of people think it's just way easier than that. And yeah, it's right. You do have to commit to knowing so much about this space if you really want to be in it in the long term, really want to be successful. I know with technical analysis, I can really relate to in the early days of being like, because I'm a very literal guy. I'm a data-driven person. The sense of like a black line is a black line to me. And when I was early trading, I remember pretty much applying a lot of retail strategies. Draw my support box, draw my resistance, and I have my little triangle, and I'd go, well, TA says this, put my trade on, and market would just move against me. And I'd be furious, be like, I did everything right. Why am I losing money? And that spurred me on to be like, well, you obviously don't know enough. There's more to learn here. And
it drives that inner force in you, where it's like, why am I going wrong? What's the missing piece? And you'll sit there and do your nuts on it trying to find what the missing piece is, but it's worth the time. Don't get me wrong, technical analysis works.
Oh yeah, we're not discarding that. It's about knowing what part of technical analysis works and
learning. Right. It's all the other stuff behind the scenes that you also need to know that's going to give you that competitive advantage. And that's why I try to teach what I do essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's move on more to the mindset side of things, because we really want to keep this podcast focused on the psychology that people like you embody and how it got you to where you are today. So just sort of starting off, like how important do you feel like having the right mindset is in trading?
It's everything. Having the right mindset, not just with trading, but with everything that you do is everything. I had a mindset coach, her name's Danny, and she was phenomenal, right? There's one really important thing that she taught me, and that's basically when you're filled with gratitude, right? When you approach situations with gratitude, you're on a higher vibration where you have an expanded level of consciousness where things will come to you. But if you're in a negative mindset, whether you're angry, fearful, full of doubt, all this kind of stuff, you're going to have a lower vibration, and what you want isn't going to happen for you. And what I mean by this, when it comes to, if you're going to relate this into trading, right, is you take a losing trade. What emotion are you feeling? Right? And a lot of the time, if you've over leveraged yourself, you're in the shits, right? You're angry. And you're at a lower level of vibration, right? From there, are you going to make good decisions or bad decisions? Chances are you're probably going to make bad decisions. When you reapproach that same situation and you're like, okay, I took a loss, good. How many people out there? Here's one thing I learned from Michael, actually. This was actually one of probably the best things I've ever learned in my life. And I've never really, never really spoken about it. But how many times has something bad happened to you and you've turned around and said, good? Good because I've just learnt a lesson. What can I take from that lesson? How can I change myself to better myself to suit that? Because one thing that I found in life is that the universe is going to teach you lessons. Every time you do something that you're not meant to be doing, you're going to start off with a small punishment. The punishment's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until you learn that lesson. But sometimes you need someone to point out that lesson to you, or you need to tell yourself, once again, come with gratitude, saying, good, where did I go wrong? And analyze what you've done, and then basically work that lesson out for yourself. One thing with trading that you have to adapt, I believe, is what I call the lion mindset, right? If you look at the word dollar, you look at the word hundred, you look at the word thousand, 100,000, you look at the word million, billion, trillion. They all have the word lion in the middle of them. Billion, million, and trillion. Hundreds, thousands, and whatever don't. How many people out there have the lion mindset? The mindset where I have to eat tonight. It doesn't matter what goes wrong. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to make sure I get my tasks done every single day, day in, day out. And that's the difference between people who are millionaires and the people who make 100,000. Because the 100,000s, they will have the mindset, I've got to eat, but if I don't tonight, that's all right. I can do it tomorrow. They don't, and then there's the millionaires where they turn around and say, no, it needs to be done every day. I don't care if I miss somebody's wedding. I don't care if I miss my son's first birthday. That's probably a bit extreme. But that they will genuinely make sure that it happens every single day, day in, day out. And there's even some people that I work with now that you probably know I'm talking about. I'm trying to drill this into that you need that mindset where you put everything aside and just get it done. Doesn't matter what bullshit you've got on, what excuses. You're going to tell yourself excuses all the time. Oh, but this, but that. Oh, but I'm bald. But excuses are just you trying to justify yourself not going to do the work. That's all I can tell you.
And there will always be an excuse out there not to do something, right? If you look hard enough,
if you look hard enough, I can find an excuse about anything.
Yeah.
But the thing is that excuse going to get you paid?
No, it's going to do nothing for you.
Exactly. And so your mindset really is something that needs to come from within, and it starts being filled with gratitude.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong. I've had my roller coaster. When I lost that first amount of money, I went bald. I lost my hair. I ended up breaking up with my missus at the time, and it was like an emotional wreck.
Yeah.
Right. But I had to then turn around to myself and say, well, I had two options. I can sit here and feel sorry for myself and then go and tell my friends all the stuff that's happened so that they feel sorry for me, so they can comfort me. Fuck that shit, man. I don't need no one to feel sorry for me. I need to turn around and say, what's next?
Yeah.
How am I going to pick myself up? How am I going to keep going? I'm going to chase this dream. The universe is going to test me. It knows that I want to be a trader. It's going to smack me down a couple of times because I need to make that paradigm shift to know, am I on the right path? Am I going to continue on that path? Or am I going to go back to being a normal person, working a 9 to 5, sitting in traffic for an hour to make my $700?
Yeah.
That's what it is. You get hit, you have to come back up. Prove to yourself that this is what you really want. Because if you don't prove yourself, you're not as in as what you think you are.
Yeah. That line mindset, I love that. And then the cut off at 1 million, line mindset, 100,000, I'll do it tomorrow. And I think that's great. And you definitely embody that in your work ethic. I know you're coming off holiday mode right now, but you are a machine when you are in it. Oh my God, this guy, for those who don't know, I don't know when he sleeps, but it's at weird hours because he's up all night, but he's doing work for the company, doing research. He's an absolute machine, and yeah, you really do embody that line mindset, and it speaks to where you are now.
Yeah.
Next thing I want to ask you about is like a challenging period in the sort of the mindset conversation. Like where's a time in your trading history where you felt like your mindset was really struggling, and how did you overcome it?
Well, throughout bear markets, when I wasn't too good at the shorting of a market, I did find that there's some times where I felt like I started to doubt myself. I started to really think, is this for me? And once again, that kind of came around with all my friends and family. But the worst part about it was not having a job. Imagine not having a job and then, starting to worry about what you're doing. The fact is the conversations that you have with yourself, and people think you're crazy, whatever, but the conversations that you have with yourself, they're the biggest thing. You start to get scared, bad things are going to happen. It all comes down to essentially when it comes to mindset, you have to develop your mindset. There's training for it, right? To get you in the space that you need to be. Because doubt will take you out.
Yeah.
And I guess in the sense of how did I overcome it? It was more I just had to keep saying to myself, I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna make it. I'm here, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And it was because I'd made that such amount of money so early, it really kept me in. I was indulged.
Yeah.
But if I was to kind of recommend anything to anyone, it's you have to set a goal. You have to set a prize, and you have to. One thing that you should do is you should have a look at someone else that's kind of got that lifestyle. And if you're reminded of that daily, of the lifestyle that they're living and what they've got, then it's going to drive you to keep on the path, right? A lot of people that I have in my community, some of them have become successful traders. I've got whatever it may be. Anyway, look, how can I say it? Some of them, like I tell them, quit your job, go all in, right? And I don't recommend that to everybody. I don't recommend, like, I don't just to these people that I'm talking about, right? I don't recommend this to everyone because it is a big drop, and obviously other people have different commitments and all that kind of shit. But I've told a couple of my friends that I trade with to say go all in and start taking it seriously. And the difference is when you go all in, you have all the time in the day to be able to work things out. But when you're not all in, when you're half here, you're at a job 10 hours a day, and you come back to trading, you don't have that same mindset. When this is all you're doing, you're sitting here focusing on this, right? All day, every day. You want to know more. You want to get to that goal quicker. And when your bank account starts running lower and lower and lower, your drive just gets higher and higher and higher because you know that you need to hit your targets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I'm not recommending anyone quit their job. Don't get me wrong, right? I just wanted to basically say. But one thing that I found that was the biggest drive for me was Empire when I went broke. I went broke in March. And it wasn't because of my trading or anything like that. It was because of some other shit that went down. I won't really get into it on the podcast. But I had the last $80 left in my name. Now, that was a pivotal point for me because I was almost at my lowest. I was making 20, 30 grand a month before that. I was pretty comfortable. And I had a car that was on finance. I was paying 2 grand a month for it. And I looked at it, I'm like, I'm making 20, 30, sometimes 40 grand a month. But 2 grand, it's nothing at the time. It was nothing to me. My ceiling was much, much higher. But then when I went broke and I had 80 bucks left to my name, imagine the stress. Am I going to make the repayment?
Yeah, like flight or fight mode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, there was two options that I could have done. And it was one, I could have decided to go and get a job.
Yeah.
Right? But then I knew that getting a job, that's going to limit my amount of time that I could do crypto. This is probably the hardest time ever.
Yeah.
But then I was like, no, I'm already all in. I technically now have all the time to be able to do something. Let's find a way. Basically, it was something I always say to myself. I'm like, I'm gonna make it work. That's the I remember I was in my bedroom, bro. I had stressed all night. I didn't sleep for 2 days. That's how much stress I had. Sitting there, stressing. One of the nights, I looked at my phone, and it was 8:30 in the morning, and I was like, I have not slept in 2 days. All I've done is stress for the last 2 days. I'm a wreck. And this is what relates back to the conversations you have with yourself. I turned around and I'm like, this ends now. Like this fucking ends right now. I'm gonna sleep right now, and tomorrow whenever I'm gonna wake up, I'm gonna make it work. And it was that. That's all I had to say to myself. And there was all that fear, but because I'd stayed up for so long, I'd had enough of being fearful.
Yeah.
I genuinely hit that limit. Like I'm fucking sick of stressing. I'm not
Yeah.
doing it no more.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it work. And I got up. Oh, so I went to sleep. I got up, and I got pen and paper, and I wrote down all the different things that I could do. And basically I found something that I had to do. Keep in mind, I had a Europe trip that was booked that I was meant to go to in a month's time with $80 left in my bank account. I started doing all these things, whatever, and I basically taught a course on what I had done to make a whole bunch of money back, a while ago, and it got me out of the shit. That was it. Boom, just like that. I made like 30 grand. And then from that, I built Empire. I kept going with Maddie. I said to him, we need to make money, man. I need to make money now. I don't have a full-time job. I need to make this work. And I spent 16 hours a day in front of the computer and built Empire. Something that a company would take a year, sometimes 2 years to develop. I got it done in 3 months.
You just made it happen.
It just comes down to, when do you hit that level of stress where you turn around and say, I'm fucking done. I'm not putting up with this shit no more.
A lot of what stress is in my mind is inaction in a lot of cases. No,
It is.
sometimes there are things you just literally can't do. Maybe your cat's stuck in bloody tree halfway across the country, you can't get it down. But like, a lot of what stress is you have things that must be done, need to be done, and you're not doing them.
Yeah.
You're just not. And that's, your brain is going, just freaking do something, help me, I'm freaking out. And that's why I imagine you were probably laying there unable to sleep, freaking out, because I'm sure once you started writing stuff down and the things that you could do, it all started to become a bit more clear. You started freaking out a little less, and then you just started acting.
Yeah, that's it. And this is the thing, is what I need to stress to people who become traders, people who want to become a full-time trader, people who want to quit their jobs and take on this full-time. The trading journey is not easy. You're going to get to a point, you might get to a point where you've lost everything, just like I did. You've come down, you've hit rock bottom. There's only one way up. There's only one way from the bottom, and that's up.
Yeah.
But if you sit there and stress and give up and change your lifestyle, you're not going to bounce back as hard. You're going to start on a different path. Turn around and said, no, this path is for me. This was my last test. I'm never going broke again. Bang, there I went. And that's a journey. People are going to experience that. But until you experience that, you won't develop the drive that people have. It's like, I like to call it, the crackhead mentality. All right. And I say that, like, some people laugh about it, but I say in a way of, have you ever seen like somebody who's heavily addicted to drugs not get their fix? They will do anything. You see it on the news all the time, people robbing petrol stations, doing this, doing that, because they need to get what they want. Imagine you applied that to your goals.
Yeah. Crackhead mentality.
That's the way I like to think about it. Now,
yeah,
don't get me wrong, with my trading, when I went down and I had nothing left, I was at that point. And that's going to happen to people. It's going to happen to many traders out there. But if you really, really want it, you'll take everything that's happened as a lesson, like I did, work it out, and then get back on. Stop wasting your time, because your time is something you're never going to get back. I'm pretty passionate about when I talk about this shit, man. It's like I still feel it.
Yeah.
I legit still feel it now. And now it's like, I have a fear of going broke again. I'm not going to let that happen again. And whenever I start to see myself slacking off, and I'll be honest with you, this is one of the challenges I'm having right at this minute, right now, is I went on holidays. I had to take some time off, doing a whole year of 16 hours a day. I saw no sunlight. My health was declining very fast. I legit, some days, like I'd have one meal a day at my computer, didn't go to the gym, my friends still laugh at me now. I've got this app on my phone, it tells you how many steps you do a day. I legit did 400 steps a day for like a whole year. I was walking. That's how much I worked to make this happen, man.
Yeah.
They still laugh at me now, but I legit sacrificed everything.
Yeah.
And now that's why I can have the freedom that I've got.
Yeah. Yeah. I think your response to hardship, like, it summarizes where you are right now, because every time you get knocked down, you kind of approach it with this good, you're learning from the school of hard knocks, and you just find a way forward. It's really, really admirable that you are able to do that every time you get knocked down, because so many people roll over in those moments and they don't get back up, and if they'd just gotten up one more time, then they would have got to where they said they were always going to go.
Yeah, and you know what the hard part about it is? When you see all your friends around you buying houses, starting families, doing all this stuff, yeah? And you're sitting there like, I have $80 to my name right now. I was
Yeah.
last year, I was successful. Now I got nothing.
Yeah.
And the thing is that's where the external influences as well is relating it back can get to you because you think that you're just underperforming and that everyone's laughing at you. But
Mm.
then when you do bounce back, and because you know you got that drive, you're going to do it. When you do bounce back, you're going to go much higher. You got to think that with this industry that we're in, we have an uncapped level of potential. You make 10% on $1,000 account, you're gonna make $100. You build up your account, you make $1 million, you start doing 10%, you're doing 10 grand. Got to a point recently, I was doing 16K a day in my trades.
Yeah.
So
That's
I don't know
what
many people that do that.
not many people can do that or do that.
Keep in mind, I had $80 in March. You know?
I'm starting to realize that you're kind of like a crypto cycle as a person. You know, every cycle you just go way higher than the last, and way higher than the last, and way higher than the last.
That's exactly right. That's how business, and as you're a trader, you're taking trading as a business, right? You're your own business essentially. That's how I like to think of it. And it is. It's like you get a pump, you get 61.8 retrace, and then you
Yeah.
get your next leg up. You know? You do trend-based fib extensions, you see where you're going. No, but it
Yeah.
is kind of like that. You take a couple steps forward, a couple steps back. Sometimes you go back to zero, and that's the
Yeah.
cycle of becoming a successful person. The difference between a successful person and just your average Joe is the successful person. He hodled the storms. He went through the trenches. I
Yeah.
got hit by, it's like I got hit by a bus, mate. I lost my hair, that much amount of stress, mate. Hopefully soon I'll start losing hair from my chest and I'll be wrapped.
Oh,
But
well, let's keep hair somewhere in your body, please. So let's circle back to the emotional discipline side of things, because as traders, as people who participate in the market, it's natural. Emotions are flared up as things happen when you're in a long and you see that big green bar. If you're in a long and you see a big red bar, you feel something, right? It's natural. It's just part of human psychology to feel those emotions at those times. But for us, we need to be able to temper those emotions, need to not let them control us. Do you find yourself like having sort of these moments where fear and greed are really high in you? And when you feel that, is there anything that you tell yourself or anything that you do to kind of push those emotions out, or just don't let them affect how you perform?
So just like I'd probably imagine a lot of people, I did. I did. I had those fear. Like I'd enter along and the candle would go green. Sorry, red, and I'd be worried. But I've kind of developed a way for or a strategy, I like to call it, for how I can trade in a way that fits my emotions. But say everyone trades differently, right? In saying this, the way I've done it, because no doubt about it, I have emotions just like everyone else. But don't get me wrong, I'm very desensitized. And I think being a trader, you start to develop some desensitization. I probably developed a little bit too much desensitization, right? So after losing high six figures, almost seven back in, a while ago, a couple of years ago, I kind of don't care about money anymore. And I don't care about it in a way where it's like, if I'm sitting here and I'm down, like yesterday I lost a trade. It wasn't a big one, but it was, I sat there, I was like, whatever, it's okay. It's a small loss. But at the start, when you're making trades and you're starting to lose, you start to, I think, develop a mindset where it's like, I'm on a wrecking path. Now,
Yeah.
when you make trades and you make some mistakes, you turn off your computer and you come back tomorrow. That's the best way to do it. First, you approach it and you say, all right, what did I do wrong? You might want to look into it a little bit. But you turn off your computer and you go. That's one way to handle it. Because otherwise, what happens is you come back, you start over trading, and then you start making more mistakes. Same goes for when you take a profit at a level. You run a good trade, you take a good profit, get off the computer and leave it. Then you come back in a couple of hours, whatever it may be, because what you'll find is, after a big green candle, it's going to go in a certain area and it's probably going to look like it's going to go for its next breakout in the smaller time frame. You've completely disregarded the fact that it's overbought on the daily time frame. And then what happens? You've just given back everything you've just made, plus potentially extra.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot of emotion involved, but I've built a strategy where now I sell green candles and I buy red.
Yeah.
Because and you know what? One of the biggest things to handle it is using a small position size. I aim to make 1% a day. Some days I try and go for the moonshots, But when I do, I find I make more mistakes. I make more losses. Why? Because I'm sitting there shitting myself because I've got such a big position on. Only
Yeah.
way to really handle it is to use small money. And utilizing that smaller money will put you in a mindset where you're here for the long run. Crypto's not a get rich quick thing at all, but it eliminates that risk. So I know some traders where they'll put a larger amount of money. Let's just say they got 10 grand in their trading account. They'll put $5,000 on one trade. They can't sleep at night. Small price movement, they see their money come down and they shit themselves. One, because they see dollar value, they don't see percent. But two, because the percent that they're actually trading is just too much. I had $6,000 account going back as I was building it back up a while ago, before I hit the 100K. And I was doing some positions that are like $30. Less, sometimes $20.
Yeah.
Why? So I'd buy one level, I'd let it come down, my strategy as I work out the manipulation, buy a bit lower, and then allow the price to come back up. But by that time, I still wasn't deep in a trade. I entered a Bitcoin long yesterday. My liquidation price was at $20,000. Yeah, because I'm using such a small amount.
Yeah. So you're fine. Like you're not thinking about, is Bitcoin going to go to $20,000 tomorrow?
Nah, I'll go to sleep. I'll
Yeah.
go to sleep and wake up in the morning, whatever it is, it is. I like to look at the halving cycle. Some of you guys would have seen the Bitcoin Nostradamus chart that I did, and I analyzed each cycle. And you can say that during a time, there's a very high probability that this cycle, the price action is going to be positive. So if I enter a long now at 50K and I fuck it up, the position size is small. I'll drag that long down to 30 grand. I don't care because the position size is so small. I'm not going to get liquidated for ages. And I'll have a
Yeah.
side fund of USDT that if I need to, I'll buy more Bitcoin to support that long. Because I know that the direction on the primary, I call it the primary trend. I know that that's going to be up,
Yeah.
right? So it's all about now getting myself in that spot to have that big long position to send
Yeah.
the thing to the moon.
Yeah, I love the building of positions in the market where you kind of have that mindset backing of it's going here, the larger trend is here. So whatever this noise is, like let it be that, but I'm just going to buy the noise, and eventually that will stop and they'll turn around and then we go. And yeah, I think that's awesome. See, your strategies, I guess, to mitigate your emotions is you don't even let your emotions have the chance to make you do dumb things, right? So you know from, I guess, the school of hard knocks that if you make a good trade and you make a nice profit, if you immediately go back into the market, which I'm sure at one point in time you probably did, and and you found out this doesn't work for me. So now when this happens, it's like a psychological trigger is activated. You just made a lot of money, switch your computer off, go do something else.
Yep.
And like you almost like don't give yourself the chance to make that stupid decision because you have those rules in place. And it's important, I think you have that insight about yourself to know when that happens and know when that emotion is present in yourself. I think a lot of people listening need to really take note of that, is that awareness of what's going on internally and the triggers, the signals from your external environment. So for Seds, that's obviously a big win, maybe a loss or two. Those are the signals for him where it's like, okay, come back tomorrow.
Yep.
And for people listening, I think you should think about what are your triggers from your environment to tell you that, okay, let's maybe review this, but we'll come back tomorrow and try again, or come back tomorrow and do it again. Things went well. So yeah, that's
one of the
so
things is FOMO as well.
yeah,
A lot of
FOMO.
people give into FOMO, but guys, there is so many opportunities in the markets. If you miss one, just wait till tomorrow. There's going to be another one.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like I was one of them. The reason why I wasn't successful for my first 3 years in trading as well. Like one of the reasons was because I had such bad FOMO. I'll be straight out honest with you. I was a FOMO king, man. And yeah, I kind of just said to myself, well, every time I've FOMO'd, look what's happened. Sometimes you just got to step back and look at your results for the actions that you're taking. One thing I want everyone that's listening to this podcast to write down is if I do the same shit, I'm going to get the same results.
Yeah.
Yeah. It comes down to everything. You feed your dog hot salami and it comes in the house and farts 1,000 times later and stinks out your house, and you go do it again, expecting him not to fart one day. Well, that's what's going to happen. You know what I mean? But you got to make sure that if you're doing the same shit, you get the same result. So analyze your habits, analyze what you're doing. It's a game of psychology as well, and human emotion. If your habits aren't providing you with succeeding with your goal, then you need to change those habits. And you as a trader, as an individual, whatever job you're doing, whether it be trading or not, you need to be aware of what you're doing and how you can self-destruct yourself just based on your habits.
Yeah, definitely. That's fantastic advice for anyone listening who wants to level up. I think you should maybe rewatch that again and listen, because yeah, I
Dropping some bombs here, huh?
this is awesome. Let's keep moving along. So I want to talk about the big wins, the big losses. We'll start on the highs, and we'll move on to the lows after that. But tell us about a memorable trading success you had, the key factors that led up to it, and just tell us the story.
So one of them, I've had two like really big trades that have stood out to me. One of them we've spoken about. That was when I turned the $200 into $100,000. But
Yep.
one of my biggest trades was I bought a coin called Blocks. This was going back a very long time ago. Then got rebranded into a coin called Nano, and I ended up making, I think it was like 8 Bitcoin, something like that from that trade. Yeah, that was a banger trade. And then that one there, so that was huge. I remember that day I was at the beach, right? And I was on my jet ski, and legit, I had my phone in one hand and I was on the ski on the other. And I was just refreshing my blockfolio and holding the jet at the same time. Like, that was back when I didn't know much about TA though or anything. Yeah, so my mind was exploding. I was like, wow, I'm like so glad I got into this crypto stuff. I couldn't believe it, you know. Off the jet ski, this was at Safety Beach, and I walked across the road. And it was like a little bar just a bit further down the road, Dramana. I went and bought everybody lunch and drinks, and I was celebrating, you know. And then that exchange ended up getting hacked, and I lost everything. You know,
Segue into the biggest loss as well.
that was one of my big losses. I think that was 400 and I can't remember off the top of my head. It wasn't 400K, but that was a couple hundred. Yeah, it was a lot. It was a lot. Put it that way. That was one time when I lost a lot of money, but then, when I won a lot of money, but then when I lost it. But then, yeah, recently the $200 trade. So this trade, I started off with a small amount, and I just knew that with all this ETF news coming up, it's not a bearish thing for Bitcoin. I had to follow the fundamental and say I want to be a part of this trade, and I want to make the most of the opportunity. So I just bought dips. I looked at my TA and I used my TA with the confluence of the fundamentals saying we're going bullish. Kept buying dips. I held on to this position. It took me quite some time. There was times where I closed it, reopened, did some altcoins while Bitcoin was going up, because you know when Bitcoin goes up, the altcoins tend to follow. And there was a couple that I picked which were good, like Render, a couple in the real world asset tokens, because there's something that's pretty hot at the moment. Anyway, and yeah, I was able to just continue compound. And then, yeah, I was able to make that 100 grand. And man, when I hit that level, like I remember I recently just bought a block up at the lake, a little like caravan shack thing at the lake, and I was wrapped, man. Like that night, I was just so proud of myself. I was screenshotting it and sending it to all my friends. Like, guys, look what I bounced back. I'm back now, you know? Senses ready for the bull market. Like a dream come true. And then I'm not gonna lie to you, right? I got a little bit too excited and I gave a little bit of it back. Not much. I took a bit of it out, but then I gave probably, I reckon 15 grand of it back. I think maybe a little bit more, maybe 20. And look, that's expected to an extent. It's expected because you have a big run, and like I said, you're getting your retrace, and you're gonna go for your next run. And that was where the emotion came in with what I just said about overtrading. I was that excited that I just done this that I started to overtrade a little bit, and that stopped. I put that to an end. I'm like, no, that's gone to bed now. No more overtrading. And after I took those little bits of losses, thankfully they weren't on big position sizes, and I was like, okay, it's fine, you know. But yeah, there was a lot of emotion that came with it. I believe that chart of the market cycles, it shows you end up in a state of euphoria. And I'll tell you, and I'll tell anyone that's listening to this call, if you've been working your ass off for 14 months, turning $200 into 100 grand, when you hit the level of euphoria that you get, my next goal is $1 million. When I hit that goal, I'm not giving 20% back, bro.
So what do you think was the like key factors throughout that journey to from 200 to 100K? Like, what do you think was really pivotal in continuing that journey and, you know, not making any capitulation mistakes or, yeah, giving it all back before you got there?
For me, it was just believing in the narrative.
Yeah.
A Bitcoin ETF have been talking about for 10 years, but
Yeah.
it looked closer than ever. And going back to what I was saying, how I do 4 hours of research a day. I was all over it every day, learning more and more, hearing what they were saying in court, seeing the actions that BlackRock were doing. I remember getting close to the ETF. We're sitting in a big consolidation area, and some people were still saying, "No, we're going to 10 grand. The ETF's not going to get approved." But then you're looking at what the news is saying, and they were basically talking about cashing out the asset in the asset or in cash. And like that's like the steps that they do before they approve the ETF. So I'm
Yeah.
like, nah, well, we're here. Yeah, price is down because there's fear it's not going to get approved, but we're ready, you know. So I just didn't hold, I didn't sell, I kept holding, and just
Yeah.
let the thing go. And
Yeah.
now the next narrative that I'm following is the de-dollarization of the US. So
Yeah.
I kind of at the moment I'm not bullish or bearish on Bitcoin. I think the fundamentals are quite bullish still because of the ETF inflows. I'm playing it year by year at the moment. I think a lot
Yeah.
of traders right now are at a level where we're very 50-50 because I think all traders could agree that we're kind of overdue for a pullback, right? But on the fundamental side, we're still heavily bullish. So it's at one of those levels now where it's gotten a little bit tricky for me. And I'm not sure if I should be, I'm kind of taking smaller time frame positions at the moment, just
Yeah.
until I work out what the overall direction is going to be.
Yeah, I think, you know, a 200+% markup in 12 months is something to appreciate and for what it is. And us having participated in markets for such a long time, you know, it just cannot go up in a straight line forever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're right, there is such a tailwind behind crypto with all the institutional backing coming through now. And I guess for yourself throughout that journey from trading 200 to 100K, you've already been through previous cycles. And I know ETFs like for Bitcoin and crypto, that's not something that just started in like 2023. That was like things for the ETFs were happening years and years ago. And like that narrative is not the first time it's emerged. And for someone like yourself who really pays attention to that stuff, clearly it was evident to you that this was the real deal this time. This was going through the institutional adoption. It's happening. It's something that probably was talked about in the crypto space for such a long time. And now when it was really happening, you knew because of the insights that you do and all the research that you do. So
Yeah.
clearly how
Yeah. And now it's
that
like, if there's one bit of advice I can give to our listeners here, understand the narrative. And when you understand the narrative, follow the momentum that comes with it. But remember, at some point, you're going to need to take profits because the momentum eventually will start to die out and you don't want to get caught at a level where the momentum stops, you're still in, and you lose money. It's always better taking profits on the way up or whatever, whatever direction you're going in, whether it be short or long. Always make sure that you're locking in some profits at least.
yeah. Yeah, it's a very prudent action to take. Just making sure you keep some of the money you make, and we'll segue onto money in a little bit. But just want to ask you about a big loss and the lessons you learned from that.
Where do I start, man? Just like any other trader, I have had a lot of big losses. My biggest one would have been when I lost that big amount of money during my first market cycle. There was a hard fork coming up for Bitcoin private. And it's like if you held Bitcoin and this other Zcash coin, you were going to get this Bitcoin private coin, right? Thing is with that was kind of happening in a bear market, not in a bull market. And like I was
Yeah,
saying earlier, these fundamentals, they don't work as good in a bear market. Bear market, you use technical analysis all day of the week. Like that's
yeah,
pretty much what you're going to run with, yeah. But
yeah,
in at this time, I think I had like 400 grand odd on on this trade for Bitcoin private, maybe more. And yeah, man, next day it dumped like 30%. And yeah, it kept dumping and dumping and dumping, and I'd lost a lot of money. And it caused a great deal of stress, but then it also taught me that really expensive lesson where it's like, next time you're in a bear market, don't look at fundamentals. It's probably one of the biggest, most expensive
Yeah,
lessons you
I
can
think
learn.
that's a really big like lesson, and barely anyone would probably be able to tell you that. Like
Yep.
the fundamentals really aren't that effective in a bear market, and I learned that firsthand personally, like in the last bear market in crypto, where there were a few fundamental projects that I jumped on, and previously, like the analysis I'd done on those was like enough. I'd made money on some fundamental projects previously, and then suddenly the same analysis I was doing just wasn't working. It was like every coin that got put onto the market just was going down, and for
Have
no
like a
good reason.
mainnet launch and you're down 30%, you're sitting there and you're like, what the
Yeah, yeah. So that's a really important lesson, and I personally don't feel like we are close to it, but there will be another bear market in crypto. I'm sure of it. It is a
Oh,
natural cycle, and when that comes, I think that'll be an important thing to keep in the back of everyone's mind.
yeah. So like now we're going to run off narratives. We're going to look at fundamentals. We're looking at the ETH ETF. We're looking at what's coming up next for that. But
Yeah.
if you're looking at the Nostradamus chart that I've done there, after X amount of blocks have been mined, we historically turned into a bear market. But will that happen now that the ETF's in play? So remember that the market's always changing, and things that
Mm.
happened at one point may not be guaranteed to happen at another point in time. If we look at the gold ETF, we actually never got a pullback. Gold
Mm.
just continuously went up. So we have to just play it year by year. Take it by year and just as the market updates, just keep on top of everything and basically adjust ourselves based off what comes up.
Yeah, crypto especially is an evolving market, probably more so than a lot of the established markets that we see in the world at the moment. Where, yeah, like one thing you said earlier in our chat, where we talk about retail strategies and how institutions weren't such a big player back in the day, but now they are. Like we have algorithms now that can literally paint your symmetrical triangle on the chart for all the retail traders, and yeah, it's a different environment, is forever changing. So we have to be noting down the narratives that are occurring and adapting our strategies and our approach towards
Yeah,
that.
exactly right.
I
Exactly.
want to talk a little bit about money, and we're definitely way over time, but
Sorry,
um, no,
man.
this is honestly, I don't think anyone's got any complaints about that. It's been a phenomenal chat, but I want to sort of just get your thoughts on money, because as someone who has been in this game for such a long time, money has been probably one of the centerpieces of what you've been doing. It's affected many things of your life, I'm sure. Not many people probably say that money isn't a big factor in their life. And you obviously develop opinions about it. And I kind of want to get your thoughts on how you've come to view money over the years.
It's a scam. Essentially, money is just a tool. It's a
Yeah,
tool used to generate more wealth. Don't go spending your money on shit. Don't try and look rich, buy designer shit. Use your money to invest and to make more money. One thing is with money as well is uh, don't get yourself too tied up on don't beat yourself up for losing it. We all lose money from time to time. We all make mistakes, but more and more money is printed every day. You have to disconnect yourself from that meaning of money, right? And from that meaning of always being like, oh, if I've lost $50, my life's over. No, it's just you've just got a bit less purchasing power to grow your tool set. That's all. You know what I mean? Just wait and you'll make more money and then rebuild yourself up. Money. So right now I don't live on much money. I actually don't pay myself much of a wage. I live a pretty average life, and that's because I want to use my money to build more money. And I'm not tied to a dollar figure. I look at percentages, everything, percentage only. Like we'll go to the shops and somebody will be like, "Oh, this is this price and that's that price," and I'm like, "And this is this much percent different." You know what I mean? Like that's the way I think.
yeah,
Everything
that's
is
how
in
you,
terms, yeah, everything's in terms of percentages. So yeah, money,
yeah,
you just need to disconnect yourself with it. With me, after I lost that big amount of money, it makes it a lot easier now to look at $1,000, $10,000 loss and just be like, that's fine. But I
yeah,
know some people, they're very, very tied to their money, and that will cause anxiety and stress with your trading. Look at your percentages. If you've lost 10 grand, you got a 100K account, you're only down 10%.
yeah, yeah. That percentage factor is a big one. So for you, it's a tool to earn more money. It's when we think about, you open your phone and you got your bank account there and you've got, a couple of zeros and you see them. That's all they are. It's just literally numbers on a screen.
Numbers
That's
on a screen.
yeah.
That's all it
Yeah.
is. Just numbers on a screen. I'm not locked to like it's just it's just money. Like
Yeah.
and a lot of people are like, oh, it's just money. This guy must be loaded. No, that doesn't matter. Even when I had nothing, I was like, yeah, I stressed. I've been through the stress.
Yeah.
I've had nothing. I've been there. Now it's like it really is just money. It's not worth destroying yourself over. But yeah, we have to make it. We have to live. We want to have a good quality of life. That's it. So just make it.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good psychology, and I can really see why your trading isn't affected by your thoughts of money because you're not stressed out about it all the time. So
There's times I pay myself like I probably shouldn't say this in the podcast, but I don't pay myself very much. I pay myself probably lower than the average wage in Australia right now.
mm,
Because what do I need money for? I pay my bills. That's all. My bills are covered. I
yeah,
eat. I don't have to go to. I don't have to go to Nobu for dinner. I can eat something at home when I don't really eat the computer because I'm busy trading anyway. But
yeah,
some people go out there live beyond their means, trying to do all this stuff. When really, if you look at all that money that you spent on all this pointless shit, and you use that to trade and do all other things, you probably won't be working in 5 years' time. But instead, you chose to spend your money on bullshit.
Would you say that's a pretty common mistake you see with people and their money, like their approach to just money in general?
I see people on Instagram
Hmm.
buying Louis Vuitton all the time, Gucci, all this expensive stuff, and then they're complaining about work the next day. And it's
Yeah,
like you just spent 4 grand on a bag. You could have got that 4 grand, learnt a new skill with it, which is going to lead to you got to work out what your goal is. Do you want to work forever or do you want financial freedom? I want
yeah,
financial freedom. If it means that I have to live with a little bit less sometimes, and sometimes make a little bit more, but sometimes make a little bit less, but have all the time in the world to do whatever I want, and that's the lifestyle I want. I'll be on my jet ski all week this week. I was like you said, I'm still getting out of holiday mode. Well, I've
yeah,
had mates 39-degree weather here in Melbourne, and they're pumping concrete in the morning. I'll take the jet ski weather any day of the week and not have the best car that's on finance, but have something else for now. You know what I mean? And then later, when I do compound my account, I'll have a Ferrari.
yeah. So many people are unwilling to make that sacrifice, I think, in the moment, and
You know
not
why,
everyone.
man? Because it's all about status now.
Yeah, it's all about status,
That's
and
all it is
there's
in this world. It's all a fraud. You look
yeah,
at Instagram, and it's all people just showing wealth, showing all this status stuff. Look at me, look at me. I got this, I got that.
yeah, it's all
It's
fake.
it's all fake.
Yeah,
And as soon as
yeah,
you break free from that, you start to think, well, fuck it. I don't need to show off to no one. If you're going to respect me, you're going to respect me for who I am. You
yeah,
respect me for what I can help you. Like instead of showing off money, I'd rather be that person that genuinely helps, gives advice. That's just my 2 cents. Anyway, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And we're nearing up, but I want to just get a couple of final little picks of your brain before we wrap up.
Yep.
So move on to your trading strategies and your tools. Do you have any favorite ones that you'd like to talk about or share?
I love trading divergence.
Yeah,
Bullish divergence in a bullish market, I found has been quite good for me. Bearish
yeah.
divergence in a bearish market, in the bear market, has been quite good. Bearish divergence in a bullish market has done not much well for me lately.
Yeah,
um, well, I had a strategy where I had 100% win rate back to back for 3 months, and
yeah,
what I did was I combined some divergences and dollar cost averaging and not overexposing myself to the market. And really, if you understand your market cycles and you're able to dollar cost in, it's going to be pretty effective for you. I think that's not financial advice, but
yeah,
it's what has been effective for me essentially, and it helped me to earn 100% win rate for those 3 months back to back. Could have extended it, but then I went to Greece, and I ended up going to Europe. And then yeah, you could imagine after a holiday, your trading is never really 100%. You got to kind of ease yourself back into it for the first couple of weeks.
yeah. You're not sitting down and like just killing the trades immediately. You got to get your mindset sort of back in the zone before you really.
That's it, man. Just get back around with the fundamentals. All right, what's happening in the world? Okay, I'm ready to place a trade now. You don't always have to be in the market. Just wait till you're ready, be confident and take the trades when you're confident. Sometimes give it a miss.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I'm really excited to hear you answer this question because you kind of alluded to it a couple of times on this call already, but I want to get your thoughts on the future potential crypto trends. You talked about new tokens on the Ethereum chain, and there's new trends emerging. Do you mind just sharing a little bit about that?
Of course, man. So look, I think one of the emerging markets that are going to have some potential will be the real world assets, AI, and also Ethereum-based tokens. You've probably noticed that as Ethereum pumps, the Ethereum layer twos, the ecosystem with Ethereum's kind of gone up with it.
Yeah,
But one of the biggest things this year is going to be real world assets and AI. Now, with the new Ethereum standard, Ethereum 404, it's allowing you to basically get an NFT and break it up into really small pieces, like its own version of coins.
yep,
Think of how that can affect the real estate market.
yeah,
Houses get broken up into an NFT, and you can buy portions of houses, allowing people who don't exactly have $1 million to buy a house straight away start to get some exposure in the property market.
yeah. That's
Things
awesome.
like things like this are going to be where blockchain can come in handy. But I'm very big on Bitcoin. All right,
Yeah,
they call me a Bitcoin maxi. Say whatever you like, but I think with the de-dollarization that's starting to take place in the US, with the inflation and with the way the wars started. So we've got the war over in Israel there, and basically they've blocked off the Red Sea so that transportation has to go all the way around Africa now. It's causing higher prices for shipping, then gets passed on to the products. Products are then more expensive, therefore raising inflation.
yeah,
And with all these tensions, with Russia cutting oil production, Saudi Arabia cutting oil production, and a whole lot more, I think that the BRICS alliance are somewhat against the US at the moment. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but essentially, I think that the US power cycle is kind of coming to an end. If you watch Changing of the World Order by Ray Dalio,
yeah. That's great.
I can highly recommend that video, and you can see that every X amount of years, you have a cycle, and it's like one country's in power, and then the next country comes in power. And if you watch that entire video, you'll see you kind of think, well, we're at this level now, which is almost getting ready to shift to the next power. So knowing that
Yeah.
Bitcoin is hedged to the US dollar, I'm
Mhm.
looking at this and I'm saying long term, I'm very bullish on this. And yeah, that's pretty much my outlook. Real world
Yeah.
assets, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and AI tokens. Some people are talking about gaming tokens, but look, man, I think it's a bit overhyped
Yeah.
personally. Well, the biggest game in the world was World of Warcraft, and I'm pretty sure it was World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
And that had what, 24 million subscribers at a certain time. With the amount that people have to work these days, not everyone has time for games. I don't really know. There is an industry for it, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I think it's going to be the biggest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's not an industry that you think of when you think of people with a lot of money and gaming. You know, it's like
Could be
big
my surroundings, though.
space, but it's yeah,
Could be my surroundings, yeah, because don't forget, like the people who I hang out with, they don't have time for games.
yeah,
They're
true.
making money, and we don't really hear about games much. But then you speak to the younger generation, and have you played the new Call of Duty? It's a little bit different.
Yeah, I think that there's some great things you've highlighted there. Some research for people watching for sure. So let's wrap it up. You've been really generous with all the information you've shared with us today and very open, which is I really appreciate that. To finish it off, would you have any advice for someone who's starting their journey in the crypto trading space? Any final thoughts or words of wisdom for aspiring traders?
Of course. Well, if you're starting off trading, remember that you're going to have a roller coaster. Some days are going to be easy, some days are going to be hard. Don't overcommit yourself. Don't put too much money on your trades. Take it easy, take it slow. The people who get rich get straight away, they don't always keep that wealth because they stuff up a week later, like what I did, like what many other people do. They'll make a lot of money off a meme coin, the next minute, boom, it's gone. Take your time, aim for a smaller percentage a day, and just be consistent. The key to being profitable is consistency. Every day you're to be successful every day, the work is due. And just keep at it. That's all I can really say. It's hard to really give advice, but basically all you gotta do is keep at it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. um, Surround yourself with like-minded people. And if you don't have people who are like-minded, join a community and meet some. Best advice I can give you. Doesn't matter where it is. Like, if you're watching this video and you're not even in the Empire free community, jump in, start meeting people, start talking to people, because you'll find that your network will become your net worth. And if your network is people who are all tradies, like what I had, and people who don't have big goals, then you're going to think differently to the people who are in your industry that are doing certain things. And one big other piece of advice I can give you, I was actually talking about this with my friends yesterday, is new faces will take you to new places. Don't be afraid to meet people. Put yourself out there. I'm going to give you a perfect example of this. I was telling you guys before that I bought a place at the lake. I've got a couple of other friends that also bought at the lake as well, right? So I bought my place and a couple of my other friends did. Now, my other friends that are in that other circle that don't know anything about crypto, not interested, they're not very welcoming people. Like you'll go introduce a new friend to them and they'll kind of just won't want to get to know them, right? Wherefore, with myself, I meet somebody and I get to know them. I want to know them. I want to learn. New faces take you to new places, basically. Yeah. Anyway, now at the caravan park, my new friends that I've met there, they're letting me borrow their golf buggy to drive around, and my other friends are on foot and they're saying, "Oh, hey, can you get me the golf buggy?" Well, no, you should have been more accepting of that person, right? You shouldn't meet people, get to know them, not for what they've got, but meet them because you'll learn new things. So when you become a part of a community like Empire, have conversations and you'll gather information off all of us because we all have that same goal. Just like what you're doing now, you're watching this video. If you learned something from this video, guys, please drop it in the comments. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, right? And it all comes from you connecting with people. So connect with them. Don't be scared of them. Have the confidence. Hey, how you going? I'm Matt. Nice to meet you. That's it.
Yeah.
It opens you up to many more possibilities.
Oh man, I think of all the people I've come across in this space over the years now, and like it's rapidly transformed my life. I mean, knowing you, knowing Stella, it's been a big contributor for myself, for my own growth. And I'm sure there are so many people who are watching this, so many people in the Empire community, and even beyond that, who would contribute a lot of their maybe not success, but a lot of what they're doing in their life and what is good that is happening to them. To your influence, to Matt's influence, to the Empire Sphere's influence. So you're so right about surrounding yourself with the right people and the effect that it's going to have, and also being so open to just having that conversation with the right people. So thanks so
One
much.
conversation can change your life, man.
Oh, 100%.
Even like with you, we had one conversation. You taught me the fibs thing. Boom, look, it's made an impact. So just connect with people. If you don't know where to connect with people, go to a crypto expo, join Empire, get involved, and that's go to meetups, find out what's in your area. But
it's how it's done.
That's it.
Well, we'll wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much, Matt, for jumping on and having a chat. I think everyone got so much more than probably what they bargained for out of our conversation today. So thank you. And for those who are watching still, please make sure you like the video, you subscribe, you like on Spotify. If you have any feedback, comments, feel free to drop it in the comments or reach out to any of us. And if you got anyone that you want to see on this podcast as well, let me know and I'll try and get them on for a bit of a yarn. And with all that, thank you all, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you for tuning in, everybody. Hope you took some value. Catch you next time.
Bye, everyone.